everybody. Welcome to this edition of the Mize Breakroom. My name is Marc Swearengin, your host. Today we have John Bohan with Prism Financial Group, our one of our sister companies that works with us. And today we're going to talk a little bit about money. What do you think, John?
Everyone likes to talk about money.
They like money. Right before we started this, you and I had a brief conversation. I'd like to dive into a little bit more. This idea of cash management, right? So you have people that have varying levels of money right now. They might be first starting out and they feel like they don't really have any money. So why would they need cash management? They might have a lot. So talk a little bit about that, like why people should be thinking about this regardless of where they're at in their professional career.
Yeah, I think cash management is, longevity, in investments tends to help everything look a little bit better. I have no idea what the stock market is going to look like next week or next month or next year. But 10 or 20 years from now, pretty confident it's going to be better. If it's not, we all got a lot more problems, But so how do you start out if you're a new franchisee or if you just got out of college? How do you put any money away? Well, you start with something and you just get her going. Right now, most individuals who work for companies, small or large, have some type of retirement plan. So if it's your 401k or 403b or just an IRA, whatever it might be, you're probably putting something in there automatically that's coming out of your paycheck. Fantastic. But let's say you want to build up a little bit more. I think if you're just starting out, you don't have a whole lot of excess. If you can put in $50 a paycheck or $1,000 a paycheck, it can go into this money market fund, and then hopefully it'll just accrue over time. And that way you're just starting with something, and then maybe next year you get a bonus and you put that in. So it's developing habits like brushing your teeth every morning. You brush your teeth every morning? Mark?
I do.
Good for you.
Most mornings, yes.
Most mornings, okay.
Yes.
So brushing your teeth is a pretty good habit. Probably took you a while to get going.
About 35 years.
35 years, that's great. Your new set of teeth is really working out fantastic, by the way. I think putting money in automatically so you don't have to think about it, and it comes right out of your check, goes into a savings account. I don't even care if it's invested in something, but what we do for a lot of folks at all age groups, and I have young clients that are teenagers in their 20s and 30s, and I try and do it with every client. I say, just give me something every month. And I don't care if it's $50. And you'd be surprised how they just don't miss it over time. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, I think I can bump that up a little bit. And then after a couple of years, after 10 years, after 30 years, you're really going to be happy you did it.
That's great. It sounds like a little bit of a lot of people need is that accountability almost. And so that's what you're helping with your clients do, is just being accountable to that. Because I think it's ideas that we think about like, yeah, we should do that. But having someone like you and Prism kind of there helping manage it, making good decisions and making top of mind, it's easy to say, oh, I'll do it next month, or I just won't, but I think that that's the key to having someone like yourself or someone that helps you with your cash management to help that process.
I mean, I'd like to say that, we have it all figured out, but really is, we're kind of financial coach, a lot of times a financial therapist. If we can help people make good financial decisions, great. But a lot of times it's helping them avoid the bad ones. But to your point, it's just getting started with things. And what we do with people starting out is really no different. You kind of get in the right habits, and it'll help you for life.
That's great. And then it carries on to those other things, as you mentioned, as people are further on in their careers and they're really thinking about like retirement, then it's a whole different kind of things you're doing. But you guys are kind of spanning that whole breadth, and you can help them with retirement planning, or even I believe estate planning and things like that you can kind of grow with them. Is that?
Oh, you bet. And it's certainly folks, they start to make a little bit more money, but then they start to have a few more expenses, and they got little mouths to feed, and then they got, more stuff that just costs more money. So then it just takes a little bit more planning. So on the front end, when you're starting out, you might not think you have any money, but you probably have a little bit of excess to get started. Well, as you start to make a little bit more and you start to have more expenses, well, now you really have to be thoughtful of how you're investing. And it kind of goes back to those three different time frames of money, three different buckets of money. Again, the short-term money, you're just continually dumping into a money market fund as an example. But the longer term money, your 401k, your retirement, maybe additional savings, if you just keep plunking that away, in the right allocation, which, certainly we can help with, it really will set you up 10, 20, 30 years down the road. And it probably doesn't take a whole lot of effort. I mean, I certainly wish in my 20s I would have been a little more diligent, but I got better in my 30s. But in my 20s, I could have been a little better.
I would agree with that. And so that middle area too, is that just a little, mentioned earlier, it's a little more difficult. Is that people have to be a little more diversified? So what are the challenges people face in that kind of middle time, right? If it's not like short term or long term, what are the kind of things that you're hearing people are concerned about?
Well, the middle time, so let's say that you're going to need money in 3 to 7 years. So the stock market, I'll just call it the U.S. stock market, typically there has not been a losing period over a 20-year time span. So the stock market has been positive if you look out 20 years at different periods of time. For 10 years, it's almost always positive. Once you get below 10 years, it certainly bumps up and down a little bit. Where it could be positive, you could have a negative. So if you have something, you're saving money for a down payment for a house, you're going to buy a lake house, you need to save money for your kid's college or maybe for a kid's marriage. There's all kinds of things that fall in that a couple years away. Investing that in just a bank or money market might not really give you a whole lot of return. Your money's not working very hard. So then you want to mix it in with some stock market type things, some international, some bonds. So it's just a little bit more complex, and it all depends on, how much risk are you willing to take. And I have whatever your risk level for that amount is different than mine, is different than everybody else's. So I think that's probably the hardest money to manage.
So you spend a lot of time with your clients kind of diving in. We started this whole thing about asking the questions. So this is the key to kind of getting those questions answered so you can really make people comfortable with the financial decisions they're making.
The last 2 weeks, last 2 months, the markets have really gone up and down quite a bit. But the markets don't like uncertainty. So we've seen a lot of these ups and downs. And so that's when it comes back to people asking me, well, what should I be doing with my money? And I'm like, I don't know, because I don't know what that money is for. And I certainly don't want you to put money at risk that you are going to need in a year because your kid's getting married.
Yeah.
So I think all of those things, understanding what your goals are and what is coming in the future can kind of help you plan. And then there's always uncertainty. So that's when we want to have that emergency fund to make sure you can get a washer and dryer when you need a washer.
I bet. That's great. Well, I think you just helped me kind of pull it all together. I think if anybody's asking that question, what should I do with my money? First of all, you should call John and help him kind of walk you through those things. So I think that would be your first step. And they can find you prismfg.com, and you can send an email to myself, and I can make sure you get in touch with John. You can send an email to breakroom@MizeCPAs.com, and we certainly can get you introduced to John. So reach out. And John, I think this was great. I think it's great content for everyone. I think this is a topic that everyone's thinking about all the time. So what should they do with their money? So I appreciate you stopping by today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Mize Breakroom. If you watch this episode on YouTube, please like and subscribe so you never miss another episode. You can find the Mize Breakroom anywhere you can find podcasts. If you like what you heard, please rate and review the podcast 5 stars. Looking for more information? You can find us on most social media platforms at Mize CPAs. Thanks for listening, and see you next time in the Breakroom. The Mize Breakroom is produced by Mize CPAs and hosted by Marc Swearengin. Mize CPAs is not a law firm and does not provide legal advice. The information shared in this podcast is for general information purposes only and is not intended to constitute legal or technical accounting, tax, consulting, and/or professional advice that may apply to your specific business. The listener is encouraged to consult counsel and/or their accountant before making decisions or taking any action concerning the matters in this communication to address the recipient's particular facts, circumstances, position, business considerations, or other unique relevant matters, as well as to evaluate any applicable federal, state, or local laws.